trainer. I'm the sergeant at arms for Golden Speakers, and you're sitting in the Golden Speakers meeting room. Please join me in warmly welcoming our club president, Rhonda Whitaker.
Yo!
Hi everybody, welcome. We're looking forward to a night of fun here and great information from Alex, our wonderful speaker. I'd like to welcome you to make yourself comfortable. You'll be asked to stay a little bit late and have some free refreshments if you like. We have a club mission. Every club shares the same mission. The mission of a Toastmasters club is to create a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which each and every individual has the opportunity to learn oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and self-improvement.
Yay!
To introduce our Toastmaster of the evening, Jean Simonton Craig. Please help me welcome Jean.
Greetings, everyone. There's a frost warning out tonight. You might have seen that, gotten some text on your phones. So you get extra credit for coming tonight when everyone's looking for their cold weather clothing. We're going to make a suggestion because we expect that people are going to be trickling in a little bit. Now, my feeling is if you got here early, you get to sit where you want. That's my feeling. However, it may be good just because there will be some trickle-in people. Now, we could either all watch them as they come and sit up at the front, or we could move in a little bit towards the front. Now, these guys, this is a little intimidating to me, these two little out here, but could we maybe move just a little bit? And if everybody's like, no, I'm happy where I am, then have some extension. Oh, look at this.
Yes.
Really, the heat is more intense up here. Yeah.
We're all having fun.
Excellent. New neighbors, that's what we're here for, is to meet new people, so maybe some
Put it on the floor.
Well, that was kind of exciting, actually. Okay, so turn to the left and say hello to the neighbors. Just say hello to your neighbors on both sides. Okay, well, that's enough. That's enough. Okay.
Is it Japanese?
By the way, in Toastmasters universe, when the hammer hammers, everything stops. You're obviously a very social group, and that's delightful, and we're glad that you're here tonight. Because you're so social, you're probably connected everywhere. We're going to ask everybody at this time to turn off your universe here, and I'm doing it for myself as well. We don't want to be disturbing anyone who's speaking. Before we get totally started, I'd like to just see a show of hands. We put out a lot of different types of advertising and information, a lot of different channels. So I'd just like to see where people heard about this event and what brought you here tonight. So, how many people saw an article in the Fairfield Ledger? Okay, good. Could someone take a note, one of the officers, take a note on this? All right, how many people saw the Weekly Reader? Okay, we can write down probably about 10 or so. How many people heard the radio interview? Okay, we've got 4 people, radio interview. How many people were invited by a friend to come? Okay, so we've got okay, so back up. We've got more channels. How many signed up for the event on Facebook? have a good, okay, so what is that, like 12 or so, da 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 da, da 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 da, okay. How many, and then, other things.
I saw it on Fox News.
Table toppers.
Bill O'Reilly.
Those little table toppers that were spread around, how many people came here tonight because of a table topper? We have one gentleman there. Posters? Posters around, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, about 6. All right, gang, is there anyone else?
Rotary.
Rotary, oh yes, okay, so a presentation at another organization. Good, we have 2.
Someone will come in the future.
3.
Participants at another Toastmaster club.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a participant, but a friend sent me her LA.
All right, so we're gonna, I know these guys are, so we're gonna say maybe 4 or 5. Toastmasters is everywhere. Okay, very good. Is there anything I'm missing? Just feel free to call out, yes?
MUM newsletter.
The MUM newsletter. Great. All right. Now we got all that. Twitter? Anyone come from Twitter? Okay, no Twitterers.
No Twitterers.
Tweeters, I know. All right, so we're ready to, we've got all that business taken care of. We're ready to start our meeting. We have a knock it out of the park speaker tonight. I cannot wait to have you hear this gentleman, just back from the division contest, very accomplished. We're going to start, but before we get there, we're going to start with a piece that we always have in our Toastmaster meetings. This is not a typical meeting, but we're going to have some pieces so you can have a little bit of a flavor of what Toastmasters is like. One of the first things that we do is called table topics, and it's an opportunity to practice and exercise the impromptu speaking muscle. Did you know you have a muscle, an impromptu speaking muscle? Okay, have you used it recently? Yeah. So, it's under the bicep. No, it's not usually under the bicep, but we'll talk. Either you have not used it recently because you actually know how weak it is, or you've been trying to use it and you notice how weak it is. Table Topics is designed to help strengthen that muscle so that when you get those impromptu situations and you're asked to speak, you can do so without fainting or running or some other kind of inappropriate behavior. So without further ado, I'm going to first ask our timer, who is Will Burns. Would you give us the timing requirements for Table Topics?
Yes, I will. The requirements for table topics are: speakers will speak for at least 1 minute. At 1 minute, the green light is turned on. At 1 minute 30 seconds, the amber light, and at 2 minutes, the red light. And will remain on until the table topics ends. Now, you get a 30-second grace period at the end, and you must speak for at least 30 seconds to qualify for table topics.
Excellent.
Is there a maximum?
2:30.
2:30.
20 minutes.
30 seconds. So, you are all welcome. We're going to have a little short session of Table Topics. You're welcome to participate. Keep an eye on the lights. Green, you've gone your minute, but when it starts getting red, you need to wrap it up. So you can wrap it up after green, but red, it's like red lights everywhere. You can stop. Right. So with that, I'd like to introduce our Table Topics Master for the evening, Stephanie Chambers.
Yo!
Everyone. The way it works here, we normally ask for volunteers for table topics. And tonight I'm going to be asking people a few topics to do with speaking. Some of us gathered last Saturday night to watch the International Toastmasters competition winners video, and there were 9 people who were competing, and we saw 9 speeches. So I've got little things from each of their speeches that I'm going to see if you could speak in a similar sort of vein or similar topic. So would someone like to volunteer? I guess you're welcome if you want to volunteer, or...
Don't you tell the topic?
No, I don't tell you the topic till afterwards. You get to choose a number from 1 to 5.
Art.
Art.
Yo!
7.
Okay, one man spoke about how he had gone from being somebody and earning lots of money to being a nobody. But how he spoke about how the love of his daughter was all that really mattered. Has your life had its ups and downs? What helps you get through the down times?
Yo!
Opportunity to get up close and personal. Good evening, Toastmasters and many guests. It's a delight to see you. This talk that she's referring to was astonishing to me because of the bravery of the man who just laid bare his domestic life, his marriage and subsequent divorce, his distancing from his children, except for, as he put it, what kept him sane was the fact that his young teenage daughter was still saying, "I love you, Daddy." This resonated rather personally for me, because for reasons that I'm not entirely sure of, my 35-year-old daughter decided to stop talking to me about 10 years ago. And about a year into that experience, it occurred to me, I did this to my own folks. I'm getting payback here. And I have been gently staying in contact and letting go of the fact that no replies came for about 10 years now. And I had a great experience last week. I sat with her and her brother for a long, relaxed dinner at a sushi restaurant in Las Vegas. And we seem to be getting past whatever this was. Sometime before I die, I will love to know what caused it. But, you know, at this point, it doesn't matter if it's over. The gentleman who spoke in the international competition did not win the competition. Others had more compelling stories, but his was definitely the bravest in my opinion. What he was sharing was utter vulnerability, and I have to commend him for that.
That if you're not comfortable with the topic, you can also segue into something completely different. So feel free that you don't have to talk about anything personal if you don't want to. Would someone else like to volunteer? John Wadley is an area governor?
An assistant area governor this year, yes.
So, leaders in Toastmasters. Okay, which number?
Let's go for 5.
5. A man from South Africa spoke about how we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. If doing so stops us from trying things. Have you ever failed badly at something? Did you give it another go?
Ha!
Have I ever failed badly at something? Oh, where does that list end? It goes on and on and on. I think that in this case, I will think about South Africa and what has all happened there. And the fact that recently I've had some contact with some people in South Africa through Toastmasters. And I won't say that this is a place where I failed, but I feel like I'm right on the edge of it. The people that I had contact with are in the same kind of position that I am. I have a title of Club Liaison with the Hilltop Toasters, which is a prison club in East Moline. And that has a number of issues that you have to deal with, like how do you get time to get in there and talk. Some of the issues that we've been dealing with are discipline and getting funding for the members. Toastmasters is cheap. It's like $6 a month. But these fellows make $20 a month. So $6 is quite an investment. Well, I had a chance to contact a number of Toastmaster clubs around the country and around the world that have prison clubs. And one of them happened to be in South Africa. And I am really impressed with the South African district because they have 5 Toastmaster clubs, each between 30 and 50 members in one institution. And it's just an amazing thing that they have going on there. And it's just something that you don't think of prisoners, especially in South Africa, when you think of Toastmasters. But that's part of where we're at. It's just really an interesting part of our Toastmaster life. Madam
You're done.
Unfortunately, but if you come along to our normal meetings, we normally have time for a couple more, but this time because it's a special event, we don't have as much time. So I'll hand back to our Toastmaster team.
I got a camera here. Yay!
And honestly, if you come to one of our regular meetings and get up here and faint and whatever, we will make sure you get back to your seat. It's always a great thing to just break the ice and get up and try it, and then you just get this rush. It just feels so great. You say, oh, I can't wait to get up there again. Honestly, that's what happens. You just have to take my word for it. All right. Can anybody else say that, yes, that's what it's happening? Yeah. Isn't it? Isn't it? Okay, thank you. Validated.
Preach it.
All right.
Tell them about it.
All right. All right, so. All right. Is everyone comfortable? Everyone can see? Everyone's happy with their neighbor left and right? Okay, very good, because we're about to go into the featured part of our evening tonight. Alex Sakaya. So let me read an introduction for him. Alex Sakaya is the editor-in-chief of iPhone Life magazine and managing partner at Mango Life Media, which publishes iPhone Life magazine. In June of this year, he attempted, and we're just waiting to make it official. When you say attempted, it sounds like he didn't make it. He attempted, and we're just waiting for it to be official, and then he'll be able to say he did. To break the Guinness World Record for longest speech marathon by giving a series of back-to-back presentations for almost 37 hours straight. You know, yes, that's around the clock.
Couldn't see the red light.
Yeah. And projects have been featured on Time.com, CNN, CBS, and Univision. Today he will talk about telling powerful stories. Obviously, he's got one. Please help me warmly welcome Alex Sakaya.
Thank you so much, Jean, for that wonderful introduction. I need 1 minute to just turn this on and get it ready. Thank you guys so much. About 2 years ago, I was participating in the Toastmasters International Inspirational Speech Contest. Every year they hold a contest where 25,000 speakers from around the world compete for the title of that year's World Champion of Public Speaking. I made it all the way to the state finals. And at the state conference, I'm waiting to go on later on that day, and I look over to my right and I see David Brooks. Now, who is David Brooks? David Brooks is the 1990 World Champion of Public Speaking. And since he won, he's mentored other people who've gone on to win the whole competition. I saw that he was sitting by himself, so I mustered up a little courage and walked over there. So I walked right up to him and said, "Hello, Mr. Brooks. I'm one of the speech contestants. Do you have any last-minute advice for me that you could share?" He goes, "Sure, have a seat." So I sit down, and he goes, "I have a question for you. What do you think is the most important minute of your presentation?" So I think about it for a minute. And then I say, "Well, my guess would be it's either the first minute or the last minute." And he goes, "That's a great guess, but you're wrong. The most important minute of your presentation is the minute after you have stopped talking. Because if your message resonates with the audience, that message will still be traveling around the room. And that's the minute where the judges are evaluating your performance." So that idea really stuck with me. How many times have you gone to a presentation, you've seen a speaker, they're very energetic, but as soon as they stop talking, you can't remember a thing they said? If your message resonates with your audience, it will still be traveling around the room long after you stop talking. Thank you all so much for being here. Today we're going to talk about creating stories that resonate with your audience and that stay with your audience long after you stop telling them. Whether you're in business or writing or film or presenting, whatever it is that you're doing, we're all trying to change the world one way or another. Am I right? Who's changing the world here? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's right. We're change makers here. Absolutely. Stories can change the world, and they can do it in a powerful way. So I have two main ideas that I want to share with you today. The first one is, in terms of storytelling, empowerment beats inadequacy. And I'll talk about what that means. And the second one is I want to share with you the 5 storytelling structures that work really well, especially for a business setting, but for pretty much anything else that you want to do. So let's start with the first one. Empowerment beats inadequacy. There is a single entity all around us that is constantly trying to tell us stories that motivate us to perform some sort of action. We see them every day, thousands of times. Any guesses on what this entity is?
Advertising.
Advertising. Everybody said it like in unison almost. Absolutely right. Now the problem with advertising is that 99% of ads tell a very similar story, and it's an inadequacy narrative. And this is what it is. You have a problem, not you, but you have a problem, but if you buy our product, you won't have that problem anymore. There is something you're lacking, but if you join our cause or buy whatever we're selling, you won't be lacking anymore. It's an inadequacy narrative. The motivation is discomfort to perform action. And we see it in ads all around us. So I have a few examples of ads that show that. Get in, get happy. You're not happy, but if you get in that car, you'll be happy. Lexus. Because others need something to aspire to. The highest ideal of this ad is if you buy a Lexus, other people will be envious of you. You go farther back in time. You get more to be proud of in a Chevy. You don't have a lot to be proud of. But if you buy a Chevy, oh yeah, that's right. So it has a certain feeling. It has a certain feeling. Now the opposite of this type of narrative is an empowerment narrative. An empowerment narrative tries to motivate you by aspiring to your highest ideals. And there are a few companies, especially as of late, that are doing this, an empowerment narrative, very well. And it tells a very different story. Nike does it really well. Everything you need is already inside. Doesn't that just feel different? You get more to be proud of in a Chevy. Everything you need is already inside. Find your greatness. Not just any greatness, your greatness. It can get people elected. Yes, we can. It's an empowerment story and narrative. The biggest contrast between an inadequacy narrative and an empowerment narrative is this. Victoria's Secret's impossibly thin photoshopped women versus those real women as part of their real beauty campaign. So the main takeaway, in terms of creating an empowerment narrative, it's easy to do. All you have to do is think of your audience and think of how to reinforce a higher ideal or truth that they already hold about themselves. So think about your audience for a second, because we all have an audience. It's either at work, it's either whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're trying to get someone's attention. What is the higher ideal that that audience holds that you can speak to directly? Done thinking about it? So let's talk about the 5 key story structures. So I got a chance to interview a man by the name of Nick Morgan. Nick Morgan is a storytelling expert. He consults with top 50 CEOs about how to tell more powerful stories, either internally in their companies or externally. Okay, this guy really knows his stuff. And I interviewed him and he told me, there's basically 5 storytelling structures that work really well for business and for pretty much anything you want to do. So I'll go through all 5 right now, and then I'll go into each one in more detail. The first one is the quest. Revenge, stranger in a strange land, the love story, and rags to riches. So let's go through each one by one. The quest. This is your basic boilerplate story. This is the hero's journey. Okay, it's Lord of the Rings. It's we got to go on this great adventure, and you have to come with me because the fate of humanity depends on it. Okay? We have to go throw this ring in a fire that's really, really far away because the fate of humanity depends on it. Will you come with us? Not everyone might make it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be arduous. But the end result is worth it. Okay? A person that used the quest narrative very well in business was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he introduced the very first iPhone, literally the first words out of his mouth when he got on stage were, okay guys, we're going to make some history today. We are going to make some history today. Come in this journey with me because we're going to make some history. The revenge narrative. Movie format. The Gladiator. The revenge narrative is about correcting some sort of injustice in the world. The injustice can be real, it can be perceived, but you're trying to bring some sort of balance to an unjust part of the world. You're going up against some sort of villain. The villain could be a person, it could be an entity, it could be a company, it could be a paradigm in society, whatever it is. Revenge narratives fit really well for nonprofits. If you have a nonprofit, or if you have a company with a very strong social mission, a revenge narrative is fantastic. You're saying, our quest is to go correct this injustice in the world. A company that is doing the revenge narrative very well is a company called Tom's Shoes. Anybody heard of Tom's Shoes? Okay. What do you know of Tom's Shoes? So for those of you who don't know, Tom's Shoes' mission is to give shoes to everyone who needs shoes. But they're a for-profit company. So how do they do it? Every time you buy a pair of shoes from Tom's Shoes, they donate another pair of shoes to someone who needs it. It's a great story. What?
They do it with sunglasses too.
And they do it with sunglasses too, I just found out. It's a great story. So their whole business and their whole narrative is built upon a revenge narrative.
How is that revenge?
The revenge is a little bit of a misleading term, but basically they're on a quest to correct an injustice, is basically what it is. Stranger in a Strange Land, in movie form, is like Planet of the Apes. So what this looks like is you're in a place that looks very familiar, but the rules have changed, and you need to figure out what the new rules are to survive. So, for example, a company that's going under a lot of transition, companies that were just trucking along in the 90s and suddenly the internet happened, or companies that were trucking along in the last few years and then mobile happened. They need to figure out what the new rules are in order to survive as a business. So it's a story that you would tell internally to a team. The love story, Romeo and Juliet, just a classic setup. Another company that used the love story very well, that uses the love story very well still, is Apple. Apple notoriously does not do any market research for their products. They don't do market research, they don't do focus groups. Part of the big narrative that they told over and over was, we just love these products. We make these products because we love them. And then if you buy that product, you're also buying into that narrative. And it's part of the reason how part of the way that they were able to build a really loyal following. And the last one is rags to riches. Everyone likes a good rags to riches story, basically from poverty to wealth. Now, the rags to riches story does not have to be monetary wealth. It can be any kind of wealth. It's essentially from lack to fullness. So it can be a story of how, I was feeling really sad and depressed and not passionate about my life, but now I'm energized and excited and really passionate. It's from a lack to a fullness. So if you're in a wellness field, you run across a lot of rags to riches narratives, the before and after pictures. So those are the 5 main story structures. So think about your story and think about your audiences. And think about the attention that you want from your audience. What story and narrative do you have, and which of these fit? It may be that part of your audience needs a different type of narrative than another part of your audience. Okay? So that's that. So I want to show you how we were able to tap into some of these narratives with iPhone Life magazine, mostly accidentally, because we didn't know what we were doing, but we just thought it was cool. So a couple of years ago, we hosted an event called Dress Like Steve Jobs Day. So Steve Jobs had just retired from Apple as CEO, but he hadn't passed away. It was like 2 months before he passed away, and it was this weird, confusing time where nobody knew how sick he was and what was happening. But he just retired as CEO, and we're iPhone Life magazine, so we have to do something, right? So we came up with this idea of we just picked a random day, a Friday, like 2 weeks from the current date, and just declared that Friday was Dress Like Steve Jobs Day. Okay, because Steve Jobs notoriously always wore a black turtleneck shirt and jeans to every presentation. And I thought Friday, because Casual Friday, might be a hit in a lot of workplaces. So we put it out there. We told everybody, take a picture of yourself dressed like Steve Jobs, send it to us, and we'll publish our favorite ones in the magazine. Now, without knowing it, we were able to hit a couple of notes. We hit a quest note because we were trying to honor the ongoing legacy of Steve Jobs, and a little bit of a revenge narrative because we're trying to honor him and kind of, exalt him in some way. So it took us 20 minutes to create the Facebook event page and write up a little blog post and send it out. It cost us $0, and we got hundreds of thousands of dollars of free publicity. Okay, we got featured on Time and CNN. Every single local news outlet had a little story about Dress Like Steve Jobs Day. iPhone Life magazine is hosting Dress Like Steve Jobs Day. Get your turtlenecks out, and really cool, really fun stuff. We got hundreds of submissions. Dressed like Steve Jobs. We had entire offices, workspaces, people that they all dressed up like Steve Jobs and then send us images. We even had the creators of the Smurfs create a digital Smurf dressed like Steve Jobs and sent to us. So it was a really, really successful event. just because we were able to strike a narrative that resonated. I also try to do a similar thing with my Guinness World Record attempt. Every time I talked about my Guinness World Record attempt, I was very conscious of what the quest was. And every time I talked about it, I said, you know, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm on a mission to inspire people to do unique things in their lives. And that was the thing that I just kept saying over and over. And through that, I was able to get interviewed in Univision about it. I got featured in the Houston Chronicle and San Francisco Chronicle. I got some pretty good press out of it. So the main takeaway from this part of the presentation is you can use these 5 story structures to tell the right story, to figure out what the right story for your audience is. Okay? Now, in terms of telling a powerful story, I think the best example of utilizing the power of the narrative and using technology to enhance that story comes from Annie Leonard. Now, Annie Leonard was an activist working for Greenpeace. And through her work for Greenpeace, she traveled all over the world tracking the movement of trash and waste. From factories to the dumps, from developed countries to undeveloped countries, just tracking the movement all over the world. She did this for about 10 years. After about 10 years, she put together a 1-hour presentation just filled with data and facts, and it was really heavy, kind of boring presentation, but it was very important information. And she put together this 1-hour presentation and just took it on the road, and she gave it to anyone that would listen. She spoke at schools, and she spoke at organizations, at nonprofits. Whoever would listen, she would tell the story. After about 4 years of giving that presentation, she said, okay, I'm pretty burned out. And there's got to be a better way to reach a larger number of people. And that's when the magic happened for her. She teamed up with an organization that had had some success and was looking for some cause to add animation to so that they could try to make it go viral. And that organization turned her 1-hour-long, boring, data-heavy presentation into a nice 20-minute animated story that she narrates, and then they renamed it The Story of Stuff. Their goal with Story of Stuff, with the video, was to get 50,000 views over the lifetime of the video. They got 50,000 views on the first day. As of right now, over 13 million people have watched The Story of Stuff. It's been translated into 13 languages. It spawned a whole set of follow-up videos like The Story of Bottled Water and The Story of Electronics. All in all the videos have gotten over 65 million views. It's turned into a movement by itself. Annie Leonard figured out a way to use technology to have her story stay with her audience long after she told it. So my final message to you is this. What are the stories that we want to leave behind? What is the story that you'll tell that will stay with your audience long after you've told it? We have the opportunity through storytelling to change the narrative of entire generations. I think we should take that opportunity. Thank you.
Sound of resonating. Now, thank you so much, Alex. That was an amazing talk. Now we're going to switch into a slightly different gear, and I'm going to invite Ed Hip up. Ed, do you want to assemble your panel?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to have a little bit of assembly here.
Alex?
He has been a extremely active
Panel
Toastmaster
can come on up.
and a participant in so many ways, and we're very grateful for his participation with Golden Speakers. And tonight, he is going to be conducting a panel of a cross-sectional representation of different kinds of, basically, neighbors and community members, like all of us, who happen to be Toastmasters. They've pulled some things out that would be possibly very interesting, and I'm going to just let Ed do his thing.
Thank
Ready?
you, Gene. I
Here
am
we go.
ready. Yes.
All right.
Have any of you ever been to see a timeshare condo where there was a promise that they would let you stay in the condo for free if you stayed for the sales meeting afterwards, and then regretted that you went for the condo? Well, this is the sales meeting after Alex. You should have seen Alex when he first joined Golden Speakers. This was his standard speech delivery. We're going to be talking something about that I'm really interested in. I'm sure you guys will like this a lot. So this is how you get to find out how he became that thing that was just up in front of us. Way to go, Alex. Thank you. I'm going to give you a chance to just stand up and stretch. This is also a chance for those of you who really hate sales meetings to leave without anybody noticing. That way we'll know that everybody's here actually would find delight in hearing about these Toastmasters talking about how they're aspiring to become like Alex and where they are in that path. We're also going to have a very interesting survey at the end that you can participate in. So it'll be a blast, but everybody just stand up and laugh or stretch, we'll clear the air, be happy. Here we are in the basement. You always got sent to the basement when you're bad, now you can be good in the basement. Okay, we'll get started. We're passionate about what we've gotten from Toastmasters, what we've gotten from Golden Speakers, and we're passionate about what we're giving to Golden Speakers and through Golden Speakers to the community, prison projects and school projects and all kinds of stuff. So now's a chance for you to get to hear about some of the passion that 4 of our Toastmasters have. We got different links of membership and different things that we'll talk about tonight. So first I'm going to introduce Rhonda Whitaker. She is the president of our Golden Speakers. You'd be president for 1 year and then you kind of survive for a little while and then you're back to normal. So she's in the year of being a president. So if you don't like anything about the panel and the way I'm leading it, you can tell her she's the only person that can fire me. Rhonda, would you just say, if you could think back to a year ago when you joined Toastmasters, why did you join?
Well, quite honestly, I joined because I teach a water aerobics class, and it's a very difficult teaching environment because the water's splashing and the radio's blaring and you have distractions all around, kids screaming in the background, and you've got people you're instructing, but they can't hear you. And those people talk to each other, like what happened on the Oprah show, or the car they saw you drive up in. And it was like I was losing my voice. And one day I got really irritable with this one lady who talks all the time. And I stopped the class and I said, could you please wait and talk at dinner maybe? You know, make this your workout time. This is a really great time to get your exercise, to really make the most of it. And she got really upset. She was very incensed, and nothing I could say could calm her down. We both got so upset. She finally said, oh, all right, I won't talk at all. And I said, good. It was so bad that one lady hid behind her husband in the pool, and they never came back. And I knew that I had done something wrong. I was so upset I wanted to bitch slap the lady in the locker room.
This is what our presidents are.
That is why I ended up here, because I don't usually me think like that. I really wanted to be able to communicate and engage with these people. And Toastmasters helped me understand the other person better and talk to them in a way that was uplifting and helpful to them. I learned how to keep people's attention with Toastmasters. I learned how to listen to where they're coming from, what their needs were, and be able to communicate better. I actually engage with people now. I can look at people, I can be glad to see them, instead of like, oh my God, there she is, she didn't coming to class again. It was really great that that happened, because it brought me here, and I feel a great deal of personal growth. My shadow back here that used to keep me talking like this, it's pretty much gone. It's like a compost deal. You bring your stuff to this group, and you get looked at under the microscope, you get positive feedback, and you get to let go of the debris, the psychic debris that you've been attached to in life. It's a very healing experience for me, especially as a leader, because I get to pay attention to people and have an intimate experience with them. A lot of personal growth.
Yay!
So you could say you just bitch slapped that shadow.
Yes, I did.
And this might be a good time to talk about the 10-step program.
Now, after I ask everybody a question to introduce them, anybody that has a question that's coming from something you'd like to know about Toastmasters, I will give everybody, a couple of people a chance to ask a question. Next, I'm going to introduce Monty Congdon, right here. Hello. He's been in Toastmasters for 1 month. We always try to pick somebody very new, because he's conceived Toastmasters more through the eyes of many of the people who are guests. He is an Army vet and a gardener, and he comes to Toastmasters because sometimes in gardening he runs out of manure. Since you've joined, or even from before you joined, when you were contemplating joining, I'm asking you to address any of the issues or obstacles or concerns or fears that you've faced or still are facing, or anything. Sometimes people think, oh, we're just putting a nice gloss on Toastmasters, but Toastmasters is Fight Club. You're going to come away with some bruises. So if you have any of those that you'd like to talk about, I'd like to hear.
Well, as far as it being a fight club, I can agree with that a little bit, because there's always some conflict. You have to have conflict in your life in order to grow. You know, something comes to a head, and you decide, well, either you're going to go this way, or you're going to confront it and go this way. And so, I guess part of that fight club mentality for speaking is that public speaking can be a very scary thing. It's, you know, I still get nervous about it, and I've had some speaking experience, but typically before, anytime I go up to give a speech, there's always that moment where you have that fear. And so, coming to Toastmasters, I attended a couple meetings before I signed up. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the environment that Toastmasters makes is that it's very positive. You know, yes, you'll have your rumble, tumble moments where, you know, where you're pushing up against your perceived limits, but that's when growth happens. But the environment that this club makes is very positive. So you're doing it with very supportive people. You're doing it with experienced people. And that can just help you grow quicker. It can help you grow better, and I appreciate that.
In only 1 month, you learned to speak like that. Wow.
Yeah. He's a lot faster now. Karen Aoki has been in Toastmasters for 7 months. She is studying for her PhD, and she is one of the founders of the Tea Room. So she's soon to be a doctor of oolong. You have sometime recently, in the last few months, done what we call an icebreaker speech. That's the first speech you do after you join Toastmasters. When you join Toastmasters, you get a manual that has 10 speeches. Each one focuses on a different property of speaking. Gestures, or vocal variety, or different things. The first one is designed to be super easy. You just talk about yourself for a few minutes. We call it our icebreaker speech. Can you remember back to your icebreaker speech and tell how it was to get ready for that? Was it super easy, or did it bring up a lot of issues, or what was that for you?
The content of the icebreaker slips my mind a little bit, because the first thing I notice about public speaking is you can have a speech prepared, but most of the challenge for me getting up was everything else to do with speaking. How to get on the stage. Suddenly I'm aware of my arms, that I have to go beyond this little box that I'm comfortable with. Also, I was used to speaking maybe in 1 minute at the most sentences. I wasn't used to developing an idea for so long. The other challenge was to fit a life's worth of material into 5 minutes, and to do that in a really intelligent way with a solid beginning, middle, and ending. So what I remember most is the preparation, the feeling of being up here. I'm not so sure what came out of my mouth, but for me, just getting up front was a big reward in itself. Just the fact that I could get up and not use my flute, which has been my medium, instead use my voice. That's what I remember about my speaker.
Lastly, we have John Loris, who's been in Toastmasters for 9 months. I asked John, can you give me some introductory material to say about you? And he said, nah, I don't really have anything. And I said, okay, well, is it boxers or briefs? He said, it's bikini cut. Now you know more about John than you want to know. John, can you talk about the benefits that have happened to you in your life from being in Golden Speakers for 9 months? How have you applied these lessons to your life?
Interesting question. One thing I've learned is that when you ask me for information about myself, I should actually answer. Things that I've learned since starting Toastmasters, I've always been in business for myself, and I've always had businesses in town. You may know that I own Frontline Printing, and I've always had to talk to my employees and customers and my whole life. But I realized that there was always something there. There was always some fear when speaking to them. So my whole life I've tried to take courses. I took a Dale Carnegie course years ago on how to win friends and influence people. It was a public speaking course. And I came away with that, from that with, there were no techniques. They didn't give me techniques. They didn't tell you how to use your voice to project your voice. They didn't tell you where to put your hands. Nothing. How to use the stage, how to use visual aids. And when I joined Toastmasters, you learn all that stuff. There's no gray area. You know exactly what to do when you're standing here. You know how to make your point. It's fantastic. And it gives you a sense of confidence that really carries over into your everyday life. And I would say that I've been sort of more bossy at home. I'm getting my point across more, which I get the point across, I will still lose the argument. And I know where to keep my hands when I'm. But it has many values, and I'm sure as many lives are in this room now, you'll have many different areas in your life where you're just going to push this confidence into. And you'll be all that you can be. Thank you.
How many of you have noticed that your color copies from Frontline have gotten more vivid and clear sometime in the last 9 months?
Even the black and white.
I said I was going to give you guys a chance to ask them some questions. Actually, everybody's going to get a chance, because after we finish tonight, we have refreshments that all the members have gathered on a potluck basis here, and they will all be in the kitchen area with the refreshments, and you can come up and ask them any questions that you have for them. Okay? Now, we're going to conclude this part of the panel section where all the people in the audience, members and guests, become part of our panel. This is our annual survey about Toastmasters.
Ha!
If you guys will scoot a little bit that way, then these guys can see this without having to look over your This is our survey about what is the moth-like attraction of golden speakers. You know, you go to a flame and you give the speech and you burn. Everybody's going to get a chance to say 3 of these things, so you don't have to pick it down to 1. But we're actually interested. What do people perceive about Toastmasters that would make them want to join? You'll also get to see the current members. What are they getting the most out of for each one of these things? So the 3, you're going to get to pick 3 of these things. So it's either that you actually, if you're a non-member, you're saying, I'd like to join because I'm inspiring to be a public speaker, and I'm hoping this would support me. If you're a member and you pick that one, it's because it is supporting you in being a public speaker. Communication at work, communication in relationship, self-actualization. I like to come to Toastmasters because it's entertaining to see these speeches. I'm in Toastmasters for the leadership that I cultivate, because you may not be aware, but we have 2 tracks in Toastmasters. One is to cultivate public speakers, and one is to cultivate leaders. The camaraderie of being in a group, the NASCAR-like thrill of watching members flirt with death, and watching and contributing to other members grow. Jean had me stick that one up after I did this survey last time. That's her favorite thing here. You can tell it's different writing. This is all my wife's writing. That's my writing. Now, Dell's going to be doing a quick count for everyone. So we're going to go through. You can be thinking, which of these 3 do I want my vote to be going on? And then we'll see which is the more important one for members and which is the more important ones for non-members. Okay? Everybody ready?
Ready.
Just raise your hand. Dell's going to count and shout out to me what the number is. Okay. For how many of the guests is the prospect of enhancing your public speaking one of your 3 things that you would be joining Toastmasters for? We have this many people that are aspiring to be or are already
23.
Wow. Wow. This is an amazing town, huh? And how many of the members are deriving that kind of support for that already in your...
11.
11. Okay. Now, communication at work. For the guests, how many of you would like to get that as one of your 3 most important things that you'd like to get out of this?
7.
And for members, how many of you would you say that's one of the biggies that you're getting out of it as a member?
9.
Okay. Communications in relationships. If you're a guest, and this is one of the biggies that you'd like to get out of this, what's your number? Raise your hand.
12.
Wow. And you know, we should get a show of how many guests there are so we can get a sense of, so everybody who's a guest, raise your hand.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, we'll do it this way, because I know there's 75 people in the room. How many in the room are members? Let's get that show. 20. So there's 20 members and 55 guests. Okay, good. So if 12 of the guests, it's 12 out of 55. That just makes it a little more interesting. Okay, members. How many of the communication, how many of the members are getting communication and relationship as one of your big 3?
3.
Self-actualization for guests. How many of the guests really see this as a vehicle for self-actualization as one of the big things you'd like to get out of it if you were to join? I'm not saying, this isn't a presumptive clause I'm using here, if you were going to join. do we got?
31.
Whoa! All right, our biggie. What a surprise. All right. I don't need anything at work. Screw work. I just want to grow. Members. For members, how many of you is that the biggie for members? 7?
9.
9. How many can perceive the entertainment value of coming and watching Karen talk? And other folks talk. All right.
7.
7. And then members? How many of the members have that as one of the big things about coming?
6.
Leadership for guests?
It's 18.
Another biggie. And members for leadership. That's one of your big 3.
6. 7.
7. Camaraderie. How many for camaraderie amongst the guests?
10.
And members?
7.
NASCAR-like thrill? Members flirt with death?
Yes.
It's like a 1.
Thank you. We really know that's why everybody comes. That's why we actually call table topics the little death. Members, how many come? Just Tom. Tom's the only one that comes to see everybody. All right, 3. And then the last one, this one's Jeans. Watching to other members' growth.
7.
And for members. Yeah, you kind of nailed into the corner on this one, aren't you?
7.
Okay. So there's our count. We now know why people who might consider joining Toastmasters are considering it, and you can compare that to what actually shows up once you do join. I have had one additional reason show up for joining Toastmasters that came since this was done. I'm going to tell you 3 reasons, and one of them is true. The other 2 have been made up. I was sitting in the back of the room, and somebody came in, and I said, as a guest, and I said, why are you here? And this person told me one of these 3. The other 2 are made up. Everybody who can guess which is the correct one gets a free prize. A free prize. Okay. So the first one is, this person came in and said, I'm here because I went to the happy hour at the Red Rock and everybody actually seems kind of sad. That might be the reason that somebody would come to. It might be. Or this person sat down next to me and said, I came because I missed the train horns since they passed the regulator. And I came to hear Tom Trainer laugh. The last one that it might be is this person said to me and said, my Netflix didn't come in the mail today and I don't have anything better to do. Okay, now how many think it's the happy hour went sad at the Red Rock? 1, okay. How many think it's missing the train horns and came to hear Tom laugh? Okay. Now how many think they missed their Netflix mailer and didn't have anything better? All right. Thank you, Rena. I told you you would know. Everybody else is guessing, but you did. So all of you who got that it was Netflix, which is the correct answer, you get a free prize. You can come as a guest to any Toastmaster meeting for the next month without paying anything. Free guest appearance at Toastmasters. Please give it up for our wonderful panel.
Ed?
Wonderful job. Well, is everybody still hanging in and you're engaged? And it looks like the people that wanted to leave left. I don't see any empty seats actually. So great, you stayed in here. We have one more thing. It's always interesting to hear a little bit more about the speaker. And we have to interview Alex and pull some extra information out. To talk to you is Seth Braun.
Yo!
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, guests, viewers at home. I'm going to call up Alex Sakea. Come on up here. You can clap again. Notice the highly developed forearms of Alex and Seth. Just show your forearms from clapping here. This is part of Toastmasters is we clap a lot. So you get these very highly defined. My first question for you is, do you have to be handsome to join Toastmasters? Or is that just you?
Well, Seth, I didn't look like this.
It's really great for me to be up here with Alex because Alex and I are actually good friends and also both professional speakers, and we share a lot of Toastmasters time, we share a lot of time together in our professional life, we just share a lot of our life together. And in fact, Alex interviewed me on his website, The Speaker Guy, is that
That's
right?
right.
The Speaker Guy?
Yeah.
Oh, the public speaking guy.
The Public Speaking Guy.
Thank you.
And it's like the #1 visited post or article on your site.
Seth's interview got some really good SEO magic going on. So anytime somebody searches for how to book public speaking gigs, my interview with Seth is one of the top search results.
Wow.
Wow.
Go!
So now I get to interview you. When you started, you despite what Ed said, despite the disinformation and lies, the propaganda,
Revenge.
you were already a good speaker when you came to Toastmasters.
I wouldn't say I was I was okay. One of the great things about this club is that Tom always films everything. And I thought I was a pretty good speaker when I came. And then when I came to the next meeting and I got the videotape and I watched it, I thought, oh my God. Basically, my speech, you needed a slow motion camera to capture me because my entire speech, I was just going like this. The whole time I was talking like this. I didn't stop once. And I didn't notice. I thought I was doing great. So it's those type of little things that you get feedback on. When you watch yourself, it's a trip, let me tell you.
How do you go for 37 hours without stopping talking? That's what I like to do.
Walk slower.
That is a great question. Let's go ahead and address it briefly, but we're not going to go too far into that because it's a really fascinating thing. He'll be around. Ask him all about it when the meeting's over. But just briefly, maybe you can speak to it.
Sure. Well, the record, to clarify, it's longest speech marathon, so it's a series of back-to-back presentations. So I could take a break. I could take a 5-minute break for every 60 minutes that I spoke. I just needed to keep it up for 37 hours. So it was tough. It was not the most polished speaking you've ever heard, but thankfully the record was not dependent on quality. So after about 24 hours or so, I was pretty delirious. The last few hours were tough.
Good question. And ask him more after the end of the meeting. So if someone comes to this and they're thinking, I'm a pretty good speaker, you know, I don't really need to do Toastmasters because I'm a good speaker.
what would you say to them out of like a genuine concern or care or desire? To what would you say to that person so that they could understand how you've grown?
I would say, prove it.
Bring it.
Bring it.
Bring it to the
Come and show
Thunderdome.
it. Public speaking is one of those things that is, you can always improve. You can always improve at it. So no matter how good you are, just come. Even if you come and don't give a speech, I found that there are a lot of meetings where I'm not participating or I'm not given an impromptu speech or anything, and I still walk away with so much knowledge just from watching other people speak. Because every meeting also has an evaluation part, where evaluators come up and they evaluate the speeches that you just saw, and the evaluations are like mini speeches. So there are all these different layers, like you can just come and bring popcorn, whatever.
A couple more questions for Alex. One of the big questions is, okay, that's great. You're professional speakers. I'm not interested in being a professional speaker. Is this going to be fun for me? Is it going to be relevant for me? What would you say to someone who doesn't want to be a professional speaker?
I would say, well, obviously it's not just for professional speaking. We all speak. You speak every day. You communicate every day. You're always trying to tell a story, communicate your point, get your point across. I mean, it's a skill that, you know, you can, as I'm clearly demonstrating right now. It's a skill that you can always improve. You know, you use it for work, you use it for whatever you want. So, not just for professional speakers. And also there's the whole leadership track, which I actually never really explored. And these are different roles that you can take in different meetings and be in charge of different parts. It's like a whole other world, but it's a very robust system that Toastmasters has set up.
Great.
Yeah. One more thing I want to mention too. I have just a quick thing. On your way out, I have a bunch of iPhone Life magazines. You're welcome to take, if you have an iPhone. If you don't have an iPhone, take two. I brought a bunch of copies for everybody. So, yeah, you're welcome to take some.
So just in terms of closing, oftentimes people ask, okay, how much is it to join Toastmasters? Our current dues are, I believe, $50? $54 for 6 months. And nobody's making money. Alex isn't making money. Tom Trainer's not making any money. It's all volunteer run, in case you were wondering. Everything here is volunteer run. When you join, you become part of the leadership of the club. You run the lights or you participate, and we do this together. And the final piece I'd like to say is that we are in a time and a space when the ability to communicate becomes the essential skill that you need to move forward a vision or ideas or your creative endeavors. Because we've moved out of a time when we're managing things into a time when we're managing creativity and vision and intelligences. So we're out of an old paradigm of managing things into a new paradigm of managing human resource. And your ability to communicate the intangible and the subtle and the unmanifest is going to determine, it's the cap on your ability to lead or influence or create. And when you expand your ability to communicate, persuade, and enroll people in a vision that you have, then you have obtained the ability to make things happen in the world. And I think that is what we're most interested in. I believe that's what Alex is most interested in his talk. And I think that's what the majority of people in this room are most interested in. I invite you to stick around, find out about joining. I'd like to turn our meeting over to our Toastmaster.
Just before I hand off to our president, do we have people in the room right now who are, could you stand if you have been identified to have the forms and to be sort of lightning rods for questions and things? Okay, all up here. So if you take a look, if you just, again, it's no obligation, but just look at these people, talk to them, go. They've got forms, they've got information, and we can follow up. We can follow up with you however you want to do it. How many people here are members of a Toastmasters club? I know we've got other Toastmaster clubs represented here. Great. Okay, so we really do have a variety of people here in the room. Feel free to just talk to any of them, and just know that, just like, who was it that John Morrow said something about how that confidence, regardless of what you're doing, if you take a risk, if you step up and you take risks, whether it's whatever it is in your life, if you need a little help with doing that, you're kind of feeling like you're shrinking back a little bit, Toastmasters is a completely safe gym with all kinds of spotters and pads and equipment and everything. You can get out and you can try something different, little different, and then that feeling of accomplishment and pushing the envelope, you will take into whatever else you're doing. If you're quilting, you know, your quilts are going to start looking different, I guarantee you. Whatever it is, you're going to be moving in new directions, and that is a really solid reason why anybody can be benefiting from Toastmasters.
Is it possible to like have 5 minutes for questions as a group rather than individuals asking?
Well, I'll tell you, Carol, this is one thing. So we are, as Toastmasters, we are so into being on time. It's almost insane.
Neurotic.
Are we not?
Yes.
All right, and we are a little bit over time. And so I see all the Toastmasters squirming. You may not be aware, but they are seriously uncomfortable right now. Seriously uncomfortable.
Well,
So,
can you close the group officially and still let us ask questions?
oh yeah, yeah. When we hammer, we can all break loose. But we're gonna, one more person we're gonna invite back up who will do the official hammer, and then everyone can just go for it. Food, talk, whatever. So with that, I'd really like to warmly welcome back up our president, Rhonda Whitaker.
Okay, I have an announcement. The celery and carrots are organic and non-GMO. So is the popcorn.
No food in this room. This is the church's sanctuary. No food or drink in here. Other than that, anywhere else.
Thank you, Tom. And the popcorn in the silver bowl is non-GMO. With that, I would like to adjourn this meeting until next Tuesday at 7:30 here in this place. Thank you.
Yo!
So my joke about people are welcome to come as a prize to any future Toastmasters meetings, we're going to go ahead and extend that to people that gave the wrong answer to the quiz.
They get 2 months.
Come to another meeting, come to lots of meetings, and you'll enjoy it.
Yo!